Welcome back, everyone. So today we're going to take a look at the ships, but first I want to take a look at some of the core gameplay because there's some interesting tidbits in here on things they're working on. So at first they are mentioning that if you're not already aware with 4.3, if you go into spawn there, you'll actually spawn in your hangar directly. So hopefully that exists in the live build, but for now it's something they're still testing. So they do mention that in the core gameplay section, as well as the ability to potentially spawn every time you enter the game, wherever you are, within reason, it states here. I think this is, again, they've already mentioned they want to get away from bed spawning. We don't know what beds will mean at the end of the day. Possibly they'll have it as like the hydration and hunger that you need to feed for your character or take care of. They may have a sleeping requirement where you need to sleep to be, I don't know, able to do things on a more awake type of status. Like, so you might have some degradation in your character. That's a big assumption on my part. Additionally, in the core sections, there is a little bit about hacking, which is exciting, but I don't think there's enough here to go off of for something like the Legionnaire to come into the game. Continually, there's also a little thing here around letting things expire. That's pretty interesting, where things like key cards, they want key cards to expire, so you're not just gathering those up. There's a specimen key card, for example, for the worm event. Those are the kinds of things where right now people just put them in an inventory. I think I have maybe 5 or something in my inventory now, and whenever we want to go do the event, I just pull the key card out. Well, those are meant to expire within a timely manner. Same thing I would expect for food and drink as well. They do mention the engineering in here. Word on the street is they're trying to get that into Evocati. It sounds like that won't happen tonight, but it looks like they're wanting to do that relatively soon. Maybe, I mean, this is a big copium on my part that we might see engineering by end of year, but we'll have to see how that progresses. Additionally, in the latest PTU build, they did add the Golem, the Fortune, the Guardian, and the Super Hornet all to the stores in game. So these were all made available in previous builds under Wicklow. I imagine they'll still be available to Wicklow, but at least they're no longer locked behind Wicklow. The only 3 ships that are still locked behind Wicklow that I can think of is the Guardian QI, the Starlancer TAC, which is coming now. It's now being released to Wicklow, and then finally the Polaris. Now, I don't think the Polaris will come out of Wicklow anytime soon. Let me know what y'all think about that in the comments. Possibly they do an Idris Wicklow version, and then maybe the Polaris will come to stores. Who knows? That's a big assumption on my part as well. Anyways, let's get into the monthly update on the ship's components, or the ship parts. This is the part I like to focus in on anyways. So the Paladin is well on its way. It's in gray box, or it's hit its gray box gate review. So it is well on its way. It's almost done. It'll have a LOD review and other things to kind of accomplish, like final touches. But it's well on its way. The challenge it ran into is around its turrets. So my only thought process around that is, man, don't spend so much time around these iteration on these turrets, because I think a lot of players aren't even going to use them. Honestly, they could probably get rid of the 2 seats below and put some SCU storage or something down there, because I think the turret, the 2 people sitting below the pilot, is going to be the person that is doing each one side, because I think it's 1 person per side of the turrets, and to me that just makes no sense. Most of the time you're going to probably have them on a separate ship and just let the pilot use all 4 of the guns, the 2 side turrets that I was referring to before that are having the setup problem, as well as the guns that are up under the pilot. Up next is the Ironclad. This was surprising as well, because they do mention the Assault, and it looks like both of them are in white box. They don't mention the exact Ironclad phase, but they do say also progressing through white box. So the first surprise here is much like the Apollo, they're working on both variants at the same time. The other surprising part is we finally have what phase they're in, and it is white box, which means the idea of this coming out anytime soon is highly unlikely. I think best case, we see this by next year's Fleet Week. Unfortunately, that would be 2 years out from when it was announced, which is better than a lot of ships, right? So a lot of people are still waiting for quite a few ships that have been announced long ago and have no introduction in sight. So yeah, they're working on some of the staircase locations and improving, and in the elevators, but improving just the traversal around the ship. So just getting around the ship. But at any rate, that's the status of the Ironclad. Again, I suspect to see it sometime next year. I doubt we'll see it by the end of this year. I'm not jinxing it, right? Like, it could happen. I just find it highly unlikely given the status of a couple other ships on this list that are basically done and dusted. We don't have anything in here on the Rayland. Last time they did mention the Rayland is in pre-production. The Meteor's listed here, and then there's going to be 4 unannounced ships. Previously, there were 5 unannounced ships, including the Meteor. So let's get in to see what some of that looks like. I have notes from June. I didn't want to necessarily, I do have it up here, but I did my best to kind of break down what I think which ships are which, based off of some of the silhouettes that we know of, and these updates. So ship 1 at the top here is going to be the Meteor. So that one's obviously was in finishing touches before, and it's now released. So ship 1 was in gray box. There were 2 ships that were listed as gray box last go around. but there wasn't a lot to go off of from the perspective of which ship it was. So this one's probably in gray box still. There's animation work being done around the mechanics of movement. So my original thought was maybe this is the Raylan that's going to help with the Raylan kit. They had kind of mentioned like a special entryway, but there's still nothing new, no news on the Drake silhouette. So I'm starting to think maybe this is going to be the Drake silhouette that we saw before, and it may have special animation work associated with it because much like the Drake Corsair, it has what appears to be wings that are animation work that needs to be done. So this one looks like it's coming along pretty well. If this is in fact, if I'm on the right lead here, let me know in the comments below if you think I'm on point with these or I'm off, and let me know what you think they might be referring to instead. Additionally, there was a ship that was in white box. This one is supposedly coming. I'm reading this one as the one that's coming from a prominent manufacturer. So this is the RSI Salvager, I believe, or the other one that's missing and we know of. So these are the two we kind of know of. The other one is the other silhouette for the maybe what could be a consolidated Outlands type of ship. And in gray box, they mentioned a cargo issue with this particular ship, or the one that I'm assuming is this ship. So it is in gray box, whichever ship it is for the cargo issue. But I'm trying to make an assumption. Is it the RSI ship, the salvaging ship that's coming along? Because that one's going to need cargo. Or is it possibly referring to that silhouette that some are thinking it might be a consolidated Outlands type of ship? We don't know what that ship is, but it looks to be small to medium, and I think there's some boxes in that picture, so it's possible it's that ship. On ship number 3, I'm assuming is the Kruger L2 Wolf, which I think is just the assumed name based off of recent data mining. So that Kruger ship is going to be a small fighter. It appears that it's the other gray box ship. Originally with a prominent manufacturer, I thought that could be the Kruger, but it doesn't follow the timetable that I think this update is giving. There's a ship here listed that it's on the combined gate phase review. I don't know what this is referring to, but it's possible that gray box has moved on to almost done. This combined gate might be just it being almost complete. So it's possible we could see the Kruger as early as 4.3 or shortly after that within other patches, because again, we're already starting to get some information in data leaks with a potential name of the Wolf, the L21, and some reference to a Kruger ship. So it is possible that it was in gray box last month and it's basically almost done now. Because it's such a small ship, it wouldn't be surprising that its combined gate could mean that it was done with both gray box as well as LODO, actually, and could be in final. They leave it kind of the final unannounced vehicle combined gate review. So there's just not much to go off of here. And then they want to do more work with the audio visual and some of the other UI stuff, which we don't know much about that ship, but it could be this one. Finally, the fourth one, last time they mentioned that there's a variant that is supposed to be the fastest dev pipeline. It was in pre-production before. They are listing now that there's a ship that's in white box. So I suspect that this ship that's in white box could potentially be maybe the Anvil Ballista silhouette that we saw before. So that could be why it's going to be so quick, is because it's just, I don't know, just in that. So as you see here, approaching the end of white box. So it was kicked off, which is pre-production. So I think that's where this one lines up. And it's at the end of white box phase. So it's almost in gray box phase. So it really is cooking, but it would need to be a small ship. So either this is the RSI ship, but again, the fastest dev time, and it was listed as a variant. So that's why I'm thinking it could be what appears to be the Ballista in that silhouette. Finally, we have a couple other updates here. Those are my guesses and what I have as far as those guesses. Let me know down below if you think I might be off or those might be tracking. Up first, we have an update on the Apollo. Both of them are well on their way. They're on final reviews. Not final reviews, but the LODO is right before final review. And this appears to be a shot of the cockpit for these two particular ships. And so you can see beds on each side here. There's probably a bathroom here. On the other side, it's unknown. This, I imagine, and again, a lot of this work, I think, comes from the Meteor work as well as the update that they did to the Mantis. But this is probably a gun rack. They do, I think, have armory slots in the back for this ship, so it's a little surprising there's a gun rack here. But I suspect this is the gun rack similar to the one that's in the Mantis and the... actually, I don't know if it's in the Mantis as well, but I know it's definitely in the Meteor. So yeah, I think some of the same stuff here. And I also expected this to be kind of all white on the inside to kind of go along with the medical gameplay, similar to some of the Anvil ships. But I guess, they're going with this kind of gray RSI aesthetic. But again, this looks to be the Apollo here. And in the back, once you go through this door here, you're going to start to see things like the medical section, and then towards the back, you'll have the loading dock as well, or the kind of vehicle spot. I think it's meant to fit an Ursa. Maybe I'm thinking of the Galaxy because the Galaxy can definitely fit it. But anyways, there should be a spot where you can put at least small craft, if not a big vehicle, maybe something like a Pulse back there, and hold some SUs of cargo. Up next, or finally, is going to be the Perseus, right? So this is a picture of the Perseus, which is nice. I originally thought that this here was the same, but you can see there's just space down here, so it's definitely, the Perseus would have more ship down here. So this is definitely the Apollo or some other ship, but it's an RSI ship. My best guess is it's the Apollo, and it's immediately right before the Apollo update. Same thing here. This is definitely the Perseus. It's in final LODO phase. So both of these ships, I highly suspect to see these before the end of the year, possibly seeing these both for IAE. That's my best guess. Anyways, that's about all I got. Let me know what y'all think down below. Am I off on some of these, or is this kind of tracking with what you would think to see as well for these, at least for the unannounced ships? It's all just best guess at this point. Thank y'all for checking the video. Appreciate y'all taking the time to like and subscribe. I'll catch y'all next time. Peace.